Good evening. What time is it? It is 6:42. So we're a little bit early, but I thought I'd jump on. I was just sitting here. So I thought I'd get a head start. Hope you're having a great evening out there and enjoying yourselves. We're going to tackle your questions tonight. I received a few of them already. I'll get to those. Also, I'm going to talk about a couple of things. I want to talk about how we're domesticated. Look at this picture. This is so scary. I'm going to talk about how we're domesticated, just like the family pet. All right. We're going to get into that. I'm going to talk about the book of law. Each one of us has a book of law of our very own that we keep inside our minds. And that's what we believe. Those are the things that we believe to be true. So what is in that book of law? We're going to talk about that. I'm going to answer a couple of questions we've got here, and we'll move on to that. As we'll get, actually, why don't we start with this? All right. So Lorianne had a question, and she does so much in our group, such a fantastic moderator. So I thought I'd jump into this first. Her question is, why do I keep repeating old habits that I know lead to nowhere? And how do I recognize I am doing this sooner and stop it? Good question. But I'll tell you one thing, the fact that you realize it at all is a win. So instead of looking at it this way, like, why can't I stop doing this? This is so bad. Look at it instead and go, I'm aware of this. Because some people go through their entire lives, literally, from beginning to end, and they never become aware. They don't. They don't understand. So the fact that you're even realizing that you're repeating old habits, it doesn't matter if it takes you a day, a week, or a month to figure it out. The fact that you're aware is big. Okay. But I don't know what type of pattern you're talking about. Of course, all types of behavioral patterns, but so many people repeat the same patterns over and over and over again. You know, it's easy to repeat those dysfunctional patterns. And if you're someone, and not just you, Lorianne, but anyone who's listening, if you seem to repeat the same dysfunctional patterns over and over again, especially in relationships, and you're always frustrated, and you're always hurt, and you're always, kicking your own butt for letting yourself down. Why do some people end up dating the same person, even though they've been with 10, 20 people, but each one of those people is the same? It's one codependent relationship after another. It's one alcoholic after another. It's somebody else who treats you like crap, one after another. Why does someone who has an emotionally distant mother repeat the same pattern with their children? Why do so many children of alcoholics marry alcoholics? Why are people who grow up in violent families more likely to be violent people? On the surface, it doesn't make any sense. No one who grew up in a dysfunctional family or who's been traumatized, nobody is going to want to repeat those patterns. So then why do we do it? Why do we repeat these destructive patterns? And that's what they are. It's like acid on our lives. And it's keeping us from joy and bliss. It's all a big smoke screen. You're born perfect. It's the crap that's added to you that we've got to get rid of and get back to that basic, how you were when you were born. So let's talk about why people do it. Why do you keep doing the same thing over and over when you know it's bad? First of all, we do it because it's familiar. Even though we know in our mind it's dysfunctional, we know it's not working well, what do? We keep repeating it because it feels familiar. And familiarity is safe. Change is scary. We know what to expect from this dysfunctional relationship. It's what I call the devil. It's the devil, because we often choose it over the unknown simply because it's known to us. It's something that we have done before. So to us, even in some people, misery is safe. You see these people that's all their entire life, everything's negative. You meet them on the street, they tell you their tales of woe, all the surgeries they've had, they're showing you the scars, they're telling you how bad life is, and everything bad just seems to happen to those people. They wallow in it, they live in it, they live in that world. And so much of it is self-created. We're just repeating what we learned as children. When you're born, you don't come into the world with beliefs. You don't come into the world with religion. You don't come into the world with what a girl should be or a boy should be. That is programmed into you. So the beliefs and the coping skills and all the behavior patterns that we learn in our first 10 years, they become so deeply entrenched in our mind because we learned them when we're vulnerable. We learned them when our brains weren't developed. We learned them when we weren't mature. But now, after all those years of using them, they're almost impossible to change. Even though they make no sense, even though they're not based on logic, they were created when you were under 10 years old. A lot of them between 2 and 6. Would you want to be stuck with a decision you made at 5 years old? Being 50 and still having those behavior patterns programmed? Of course not. So why else do we do it? Well, we repeat what was traumatizing in this unconscious kind of effort to gain mastery over it. You know, if you felt rejected or you felt powerless or unloved as a child, a lot of people recreate experiences and relationships where they feel that similarity. And it's kind of an unconscious effort to change the outcome, to heal themselves. And again, this is on a subconscious level. You don't even know that it's happening. But you are creating experiences and relationships that anybody in their right mind wouldn't logically do, but unconsciously. There's an effort going on to change the outcome, to heal yourself by gaining acceptance or love or, to feel in control. But what happens instead, we tend to choose partners. We tend to choose friends. We tend to choose people close to us that treat us like our parents did. And we continue to play our part as we always have. And what does that mean? Well, we recreate the same outcome, not a different one. And it's insanity. That is the definition of insanity, right? To expecting a different outcome, over and over and over again and expecting something different. It's going to be the same until you make that shift. A lot of people think that they deserve to suffer. Are you one of those people? Traumatized children all the time told they're bad, told they deserve to be abused. They're the reason that dad drinks. They're the reason that the family has money problems. Even if you aren't directly blamed, we internalize our family's shame and we blame ourselves. We have all the generations back in our family that are living through us, all their dreams and hopes, what they wanted. But you see, it's not what we want. The secrets of life and the happiness in life, and not to give a shit about all this, is to know that you are in control and only you. Our self-esteem is so eroded in our society that we start to believe that emotional abuse and pain and failed relationships and all this BS is not only is it something that we should deal with, but it's something that we deserve. And it's so bad. Just remember, always remember, if there's one line that you bring up to yourself, if there's a mantra you can use, it's this: we repeat what we don't repair. I'll say it again. We repeat what we don't repair. Unfortunately, dysfunctional patterns, behavior patterns in life, they're learned and they're passed from one generation to the next, programmed. We will repeat them. We will pass them to our children. Our children will repeat them, and on and on and on until we heal the underlying trauma. We feel love for ourselves. We feel worthy of being treated kindly and respectfully. We repeat dysfunctional dynamics because they're familiar. Even when you know something's unhealthy, it's hard to change. For me, it's always been a diet thing. Lose a ton of weight. gain some, lose, gain, lose. When you make it into that, when you pit yourself against an enemy, no matter what that enemy is, you're always setting yourself up for this confrontation that you don't need to have. It's so much easier to just keep doing what you've always done than to try to learn something new. And I'll tell you, it's especially true in stressful situations. And nowadays, what isn't stressful? When your nervous system is overwhelmed, your emotions go crazy, batshit crazy, out of control. And then your body it's flooded with adrenaline. It becomes so challenging to change in a different way. You're addicted to it. You're a junkie to it. It's due to our makeup. It's our biology. So one thing you can remember, like I said, the line that I have here above my desk, above my computer, we repeat what we don't repair. That's powerful, and that's true. And I talk about this every day, but I'm telling you, it's all a mental game. It doesn't matter what you believe. If you don't believe in yourself, you'll never accomplish anything. You are creating your reality, and whether you believe me or not, you have to believe yourself, because nothing happens without it. People that believe in the law of attraction, some people don't. I don't care what people have to tell you to get you to believe, but it's the belief that we need. So that's why there is fables and there's religion and there's all of these things to create faith and belief, but that really is in yourself. We repeat what we don't repair. We repeat what we don't repair. They're passed on and on and on. So what's the new line? What fires together, wires together. You've probably heard of this before. This refers to the way neurons in your brain create stronger and more efficient and more familiar pathways. The more you think about or do something. Now listen, because this is such a huge secret that everybody glosses over, but your mind cannot tell the difference between doing something and imagining yourself doing something. It fires the same neurons. Everything is exactly the same. Watch a brain scan of somebody running a race and somebody thinking of themselves running the race, and you'll see exactly the same brain scan. And we've all experienced that when we practice a new skill. The more you practice shooting a basketball, the easier it becomes to make it. If I told you to go out in your yard, stand 20 foot from a telephone pole, take a handful of rocks, and try to hit the pole, you would hit a few out of a handful, maybe. But if you started focusing on one spot on that pole, and you started thinking in your mind of hitting that pole and the sound of the wood cracking and the rock hits it, and if you could see in your mind that rock flying out of your hand and hitting that pole and bouncing off, and then you started to throw, you would hit it almost every time, because now you're getting in the zone. It's what everyone talks about. It's what every athlete tries to get. It's what all of our coaching clients want, to get into the zone and stay there longer. That's the zone. But we've all experienced that at one time or another. The brain creates connections between our feelings and our specific situations, people, and places. So listen, for me, in the summertime, if I'm driving around, especially in my convertible or something, the top's down, and I smell fresh cut grass, immediately, it's like I'm in the back of the DeLorean. I'm going 88 miles an hour. I am transported to 1985. My dad's mowing the grass. It's a Friday night. Instantly, I'm transported by that smell. I know somebody, the smell of lemon pledge, boom, instantly, they're back at their grandma's house when they were a little kid. Anytime we make a strong association in our mind, this sort of thing happens. We repeat these patterns of thinking and of behaving because these pathways are the strongest. And they're the strongest because we are building them up by using them over and over with the same thing. If you were abused or neglected when you were a kid, those pathways for relationships were strengthened and your brain becomes accustomed to them. So what does that mean? It means you're going to look for people with a similar pattern without even realizing it because it's comfortable. Children need to feel safe. They need parents who are attentive and responsive to their needs. But children also need predictability. In dysfunctional families, these things are always lacking. And as a result, children are filled with anxiety. They're tense. They're afraid. They never feel safe. So what happens? We start to cope by trying to control other people and other situations so we can regain a sense of safety. And then we spend our entire lives trying to control the outside world. I'll be happy when this happens. If I meet this person, if A, B, and C happens, I can finally be happy. So what happens? It pits you now against the universe. You're in an unwinnable situation that's full of stress, anxiety, and fear. When we recreate these dysfunctional patterns from our past, we're unconsciously trying to redo them. We're trying to get a redo. We're trying to fix them. We want to get in control of them so we can fix what we couldn't fix as children. We think, and again, when I say think, in this case, I'm saying thinking subconscious with the subconscious, so it's unconscious thinking. We think that this time, if we can be lovable or perfect, we won't make the same mistakes, and then we'll avoid the abuse or the rejection that we suffered as children, all subconsciously. So what can you do to break old patterns? We'll talk about that next. It's 7 o'clock right now. So this is the time we were supposed to go live. We started a little bit early so we could jump in on your questions. If you have a question or a comment, drop it into the comment section here under this video. If you're watching this as a replay, we love you too, and we appreciate it. You can leave your question or your comment, and we will get to that. We check everything every day. So if there's something you see later and you want to discuss it, let me know. So right now we're talking about Lori Ann's question here about repeating old habits. And so we just went into that, all the reasons that people do repeat old habits. The fact that you recognize it at all is a plus, like I said, okay? So what do we do to stop? What do we do to break the old patterns? That's the second part of your question. Well, the good news is we can break them. But the more you've done something, the more you felt something, the more you've thought about something, the stronger those neural connections are, and the harder they are to break. When we talk about rewiring your brain, what we're talking about is forming new connections so that new thoughts and new behaviors become the norm. When you choose to respond differently, or you choose to think differently, every time you do that, you're creating new pathways. And with repetition, they will become the preferred and the comfortable way of acting and thinking. So here are some things you can do, Lori Ann, or anyone listening to me right now, some things you can do to begin changing old patterns. First of all, you can become more aware of the relationship patterns in your family, because these were all the models for your future relationships. So maybe you might find it helpful to read about relationship dynamics. It's a great subject. Just Google that. Journal. And I know, Lorianne, you like to write. Journaling is a fantastic tool. I use it every single day. But write about your childhood. And I'm not saying anything about I don't know if your childhood was good or bad. And this, again, applies to anyone out there. It's only for you. It's only you that's going to see this. We've all got things. We've got things that eat away at us. We've got things that we drag along with us like weights around our neck that we could so easily let go. But to do that, we just need to become aware. We need to look back The problem is most people don't look back and they don't use it scientifically. I'm looking back for information. I'm trying to figure something out. No. They're trying to live in the past. They're living in the past, going over the same thing over and over, wishing they would have done this and didn't do that. That's completely different. But when you use your past as information, as knowledge, that's where the power is. Go back and see what happened in your childhood. What were the people that were around you? Start gaining greater awareness. Think about your family's unspoken rules. What were the things that every good little girl should do, every good little boy should do, what you shouldn't do, how you should dress? What were your family's unspoken rules, the rules you were expected to live by? Think about that. Another thing that you can do is reflect on your behavior, because it's important to remember that you're solely responsible. You've got to let the past go, and you have to stop fearing the future. In order to do that, you live in the now, but you must take responsibility for the past, and you must cut the cord and free yourself from it. So you got to be aware of your thoughts. You've got to be aware of your feelings. You've got to be aware of your behavior. And you have to understand the part that you play, because when you say it's his fault, it's her fault, it's their fault, but never see your own fault, it's not going to work. You're responsible for your own actions. And blaming anyone else or anything else is just scapegoating. You got to learn healthier ways to solve problems. You got to find healthier ways as a society to cope with stress. We are killing ourselves. Stress is a huge killer all over the world, especially in the United States. Take a look at your past and see any underlying trauma and heal that. Dysfunctional relationships, they come from abandonment. They are sprung out of shame and rejection and all sorts of traumatic experiences. You need to learn to feel worthy and lovable in order to find healthy, stable, loving relationships. Your emotional wounds and unmet needs, unless those are resolved, we continue to seek healing from the same person, even though it's different partners, it's different friends. They're the same person. They're the people unable to make you feel loved or lovable because you can't give it to yourself. You can't stop learning. You can't say, I'm a certain age, I can't learn anymore. You have to learn. You have to practice new skills every day to change any patterns in your life. You got to change behavior. That's why this idea that the law of attraction is a mystical thing that you can conjure up with your mind and you can bring riches to you, that's where it derails for everyone. The idea that you are co-creating your life is true. The idea that your thoughts have power, your thoughts are energy. Where your energy goes, awareness goes. It grows in your life. It expands in your life. But action is the step that's missing. You create the person you want to become in your mind, and then you start living like that person. And eventually, because you're living in the end, as in the end result, the outside world changes. You are completely in control of your world. Self-care is so important. It helps you regulate your emotions. I could not be where I am today without meditation. Meditation changes everything, and if you don't meditate, you have to do it. Try 5 minutes a day. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in, a deep breath out, and pay attention to nothing else but your breath. The feel of your breath going in and out. That's it. And anytime your mind wanders, and it could wander in 5 minutes 500 times, but every time it does, you pull it back to your breath. And it looks like you're gaining nothing. It looks like you're stuck in the mud. Your tires are spinning, but it only looks that way because what you're doing is you're building up your concentration. You're building up your intent, your intention. You're expanding your awareness. You're expanding your consciousness, and all of that comes together. If you want to follow a life plan that works, that changes your life, you have to follow a system. You have to go with people who've done it before. That was what I found to be the absolute truth. I went through my life. I made millions of dollars. I did amazing things, but I was blindfolded. I was lucky in some things and not in others. But I had I didn't have an exact goal in mind. And if you don't know where it is you want to go, you're never going to get there. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself a break. We give everyone else second, third, fourth chances. You're not going to change any kind of long-standing patterns in a week or a month or even a year. But just know that every time you become aware, it's going to be a little quicker than the last time. It's going to be, you're going to find it humorous. You're going to realize you're caught up in something. And that's how you have to deal with it. You don't go, oh, shit, I did that again. You go, ha, you almost got me. That shift is everything. That it takes you away from being the victim and puts you more in control. So those are things you can do. I hope I answered your question. It was a great one. I appreciate it, Lorianne, for everything you do here in the group. So thank you for that. I want to jump in a little bit. By the way, again, we are live. It is 7:09 right now. If you have a question or a comment and there's something you want to talk about, drop it into the comment section. Because right now, I want to talk about domestication. I talked about this before when we were going over the 4 agreements. And it's just powerful, right? Because human suffering begins when we're domesticated. When we're born, like I said earlier, we're perfect. We're already on the road to our passion. Everything is magical and amazing. That is all beaten out of us as we are programmed. And Don Ruiz likes to say domestication. And I love that because it's like being a pet. During the process of domestication, we form this image in our mind of what perfection is. We form this image of what we have to do to be good enough. We create an image of how we should be in order to be accepted by everyone. But we don't fit this image. And we spend our entire lives trying to fit this image. All the suffering and drama in your life is the result of what you have learned. Whatever you learn is alive. The image that you have of yourself, it's alive. It lives inside your mind. But that image isn't you. But it will use everything inside you. It will use everything it perceives to justify its own existence. But as sure as I'm sitting here, if you've never believed anything I've told you, believe this one thing. That voice is not you, but that voice is eating you alive. That voice is keeping you from happiness. The voice of knowledge that you have inside your mind controls your dream, the dream of life. And according to the book, and I wrote this down because the Toltecs call this a parasite. The Bible would call this evil. But it's a living being, and it exists in your belief system. And it lives by eating your faith. It lives by eating your intent, eating your happiness. What is so sad is that we believe that knowledge is us. We believe that image is what we are. But the program, or the Toltecs called it the parasite, is really the one who's living your life. It's not you. It's a program, but this program was not there when you were born. When you were born, your mind was completely innocent. You had no concepts of good or bad, or right or wrong, or what's ugly or beautiful. You had no concepts at all. You were a blank slate. You had no idea what it meant to be a human. You had no idea what the difference was between a boy and a girl. But you saw other people outside of you, and you recognized them as people like you, as your own kind. When you're 1, 2, 3 years old, you can't see yourself. The only way to see yourself is to look at your reflection in the mirror. So what happens? Other people act as that mirror. When we're kids, other people become our mirrors. You don't know what you are, but your mother tells you what you are. You don't know what you are, but your father tells you what you are. Your brothers, your sisters, your teachers, your coaches, your friends' parents, the other humans around you have the capacity to project an image onto you, which means they tell you what they believe you are. What your mother says is not exactly what your father says you are. What your brother says you are isn't what your sister does, or the television, or the church, or society. Every human in your life projects a completely different image onto you, and none of these images are true. What you believe you are is a distorted image of yourself that came from other people, that came from the mirrors. It's like those funhouse mirrors that you look into and they distort your image. You're looking at a distorted image, but because you can't see yourself, you believe it. You agree. And again, like Ruiz talks about, it's the idea that it's an agreement. You're agreeing. You know, when you accept the agreement, that's when it starts. That's when we start down this troubled road. So what were the images that other people projected onto you? When you say, I'm smart, I'm stupid, I'm beautiful, I'm ugly, it is really the program who's saying, I am. These images are only knowledge or a lot of concepts, but they aren't you. You perceive all the distorted images that everyone else creates for you. And at a certain point, you take all these images and you try to make sense of them. You're young, you're immature, you're 5 years old. So you start creating another image for yourself, an entire persona for yourself. You project it to the outside world. I'm good in school. I'm bad in sports. For me, I was horrible in math. I lived that for years. And again, it was not true, but it became my truth because I believed it. Then we practice. We practice playing that part until we master it. And because people are projecting different images onto you, you're always asking them about yourself. You're asking for the projections to support what you already believe, to support the distorted image that you already have about yourself. In the same way other people project their beliefs onto you, well, you agree, right? And then they become yours. They teach you to judge the way they judge, to gossip the way they gossip, to create dramas the way they do. You begin to play with all these concepts, all of this knowledge, and that is how you learn to dream. The Toltecs call this the dream of the first attention, because it's the first time that you use your attention to create a whole reality. And because your attention is hooked from the outside, your whole world is projected to the outside. You begin to search for yourself outside because you no longer trust who you are. You search for what you believe you don't have. You search for justice, for beauty, for happiness, and for love. But you're looking for all things that are already inside of you. Go out and try to buy happiness. Try to buy beauty. Ask for a pound of love. They don't exist in the physical outer world. Those are all things you must grant to yourself inside. Can you see the beginning of all the suffering and all the drama in your life? You need a mirror in the world to see yourself, but there isn't a clear mirror to tell you what you are. So you agree with the image others create for you, but you're not that image. Of course, you modify it, you change it, but where is the real you? It gets lost behind the smoke screen. It gets lost because there isn't a good mirror to reflect what you really are. After years and years of trying to please other people's images of what you should be, after attempting different kinds of rebellion and trying to find out who you really are, we finally give up. We finally throw in the towel. We finally wave the white flag and accept other people's images of who we are. But then, somewhere inside, there's that spark, there's that flame that's glowing red hot. That spark inside that just longs to be free. It is always telling you, this is not who I am. This is not what I want. You are not free to be who you are because you're trapped by images of what you think you should be. You're not free to be who you are because you're trapped by the images of what you think you should be. Your whole point of view of your whole reality is based on what you believe you are. But what you believe about yourself is just a concept. It is knowledge, but knowledge does not mean it's the truth. Knowledge only means it's what you know. The most important agreements you can make are the ones you make with yourself. It's these agreements where we tell ourselves who we are, what we feel, what we believe, how to behave. What are the images that other people projected onto you as a kid? What did you agree to believe about yourself? That you were too stupid, too overweight, too slow. Whatever the reason, whatever the idea. Consider all the agreements that tell you what you can and can't do, what you should and shouldn't do, what you can and can't have. This helps you become aware of the agreements you made, because those agreements were made a long time ago, but you're still living under them. Rip up that contract. It's time to recover the awareness of your authentic self. The objective in any of this is to become aware, awareness, aware. I say it all the time, aware. The more you become aware, you're already 90% of the way. Because so many people just never become aware. We want you to become aware of the agreements that you made back then that limit the expression of your creativity, of your passion, of your happiness, of your love, because they're there. Try to think back to your earliest memories of your parents, closest family members. Think about what they told you about yourself. Then try to think what people around you told you about yourself, outside your family, friends and teachers, other people. Pay attention to your emotional response to those questions. What were the images that people projected on you? What limitations were you always told that you have? What did others tell you about what it means to be a boy? What it means to be a girl? Girls should, boys should. Did you fit the ideal image of what it meant to be a boy or a girl? Our image of perfection is the reason we reject ourselves. It's why we don't accept ourselves the way we are. And it's why we don't accept others the way they are. Think about your image of perfection. What would you look like? What type of personality would you have? What would you have to change about yourself to live up to this image? Does your image of perfection inspire you to do your best, or does it merely discourage you, make you think you're never going to make it there? We judge others according to our image of perfection as well, and naturally, they fall short too. I want you to make a commitment right now that this week you'll take one step closer to your authentic self. One step. Work on one thing from your past. Let one thing go that no longer serves you. One thing. One step. We just move by inches. Inches is all that matters. To transform, you don't do it overnight. You do it in increments. You follow a plan. You do what other people have done before you. Why try to reinvent the wheel? Let's talk about the book of law, because this fits perfectly in this conversation, because we all have one. And this is also, this idea is also from the Four Agreements, which if you've never read, go on Amazon right now, buy yourself a copy. The Four Agreements, a fantastic book. Don Miguel Ruiz, and it really is fantastic. And I believe there is the Fifth Agreement now. There's other books. All of them are great. I've read everything he's put out, but the first book will give you everything you need to know. But he also talks about the book of law, because without question, whatever is in your book of law is your truth. So that means we base all of our judgments according to this book of law, even if these judgments go against our own inner nature. Christianity tells the story of Adam and Eve. They lived in paradise, right? They were parasite free. They perceived everything with their awareness. They had a beautiful dream, but they didn't have any knowledge. In the middle of the garden was a tree of knowledge, and God warned Adam and Eve not to eat the fruit from this tree. And who lives in the tree? The evil serpent lives there. If you change the name of the serpent from whatever, the evil devil, to the parasite, well, it's the parasite that lives in that tree of knowledge. It's just like the little worm you see sometimes in an apple. If you were to eat that apple, you eat the parasite. The evil grows in your mind through knowledge contaminated by that parasite. You're never getting healthy knowledge because it's always contaminated now by that parasite. As humans, we accumulate a lot of knowledge, and 90% of that knowledge is not true. Instead of using knowledge as a tool for communication, we become puppets of knowledge. We give life to that knowledge, and that knowledge begins to create a lot of drama and suffering because it's not based on truth. 700 years ago, everybody thought the earth was flat. Didn't mean it was true, but they knew and they believed. And for them, the earth was flat. When they unlearned that knowledge, their perception changed. The concept changed. And now we know the earth is round. This kind of concept is harmless, but other concepts are deadly, especially the concepts that try to rule people's lives. As children, we don't choose what to believe or not. I said earlier, we don't choose our religion. We don't choose our moral values. We don't choose any concepts at all. But at some point, we agreed with these beliefs. And once we agreed, stored in the memory banks. As soon as we sign that invisible agreement inside our mind, boom, stored in our memory banks. The outside dream hooks our attention. It put knowledge inside us via other people, teachers, parents, church, society. This knowledge sets us up. It's a setup, my friends. It sets us up to be slaves. Slaves of the dream, this dream of the planet, this dream we all have, this unified consciousness. Knowledge itself isn't good or bad. Knowledge itself isn't right or wrong. Knowledge is just programming. It's nothing but concepts. But the parasite that goes with knowledge is evil. It's alive. That parasite grows in your mind and takes control of it. Once that parasite takes control of your mind, the real you is dead. You're not alive. There's something else that is living your life. It's like The Exorcist. It's not you, because the real you is not evil. The real you is not self-destructive. We take in this knowledge, and with it, the parasite, and we get sick from what we eat. This is what happens to all of us. We have to wake up. We have to understand that evil is nothing but a disease of the human mind. We understand why human societies are the way they are, why there's so much injustice, why there's so much violence, so many wars. We've ingested parasites, and we've ingested those parasites in the forms of belief, in the form of concepts, in the form of all these distorted funhouse images. All of the personal drama that we experience, all the emotions that burn us up, that lead us into self-destruction, into addiction, into lies, into fanaticism. We're seeing that so much now. That's all the result of our belief system. That is all the result of programming. If we can see we get sick by eating knowledge, then if we're going to be logical, how do we heal ourselves? Well, what happens when you eat something bad and we don't feel well? We throw it up. If we throw it up, we get rid of the poison. We feel better. If we get rid of the knowledge that harms us, guess who goes out with the knowledge? Once we take the parasite out of the mind heals. The mind functions much better. The mind, instead of running at 12% capacity, is now 60, 70%. The story of Adam and Eve tells us what happened in Christianity and in all the traditions around the world. In one way or another, they've all come to the same conclusion, some before, some after. The entire dream of this planet is not real. It's not true. When you awake from that dream, you are aware immediately of what's going on in people's minds. You see everywhere the parasites in everyone. You see all the emotional poison that's being spit by those parasites. Just awareness. By becoming aware, you see that wherever you go, people react the same way that you react. They have the same fears, the same jealousy, the same anger, the same sorrow. You can see yourself in each one of them, and they mirror your projections. But we don't have to judge it as good or bad or right or wrong. It's just the way it is. To be aware of what happened with our mind and with the whole humanity is what the Toltec call the mastery of awareness. Awareness means to open your eyes and to see the truth, to no longer be willfully blind. We're all born with awareness, but we accumulate knowledge and we practice not being aware. We learn to deny what we perceive. We're born without knowledge, but we accumulate it when we're domesticated. That knowledge is like a wall of fog that doesn't allow us to perceive what reality is. It keeps us from having complete awareness. The challenge is to maintain our awareness in the midst of all that fog. And more than that, to shift the knowledge, to lift the fog, to recover our awareness. If we can practice being aware all the time, just the awareness will change our entire reality. When we master awareness, we have almost mastered the dream. You've almost made it. Awareness is so much of the game. It's 90%. Stop waiting. We're all waiting for the right time, for the right thing, for the right person, for the right job. Stop waiting. Don't wait for better times. There never will be a better time than now. Never. Now is the time. We live in the past 40% of the time. We live in the future 40% of the time. We only live here in the present 20% of the time. And now, this moment is the only time you can make permanent, lasting change. This is your access point to transformation. Not living in the past or fearing the future, but tackling things now. I did a video earlier about Phyllis Diller, fantastic comedian, somebody I had the pleasure of meeting several times, talking to about the mind, about the magic of believing, her favorite book, the book that changed her life. I did that video earlier. If you haven't watched it, take a look. There's some great stuff there. Some great knowledge that she passed on to me. The right kind of knowledge, positive, life-changing knowledge. You know, how she really believes so much in you become what you contemplate. Hard work doesn't just bring success. Hard work alone. You have to turn your thoughts into achievements. You have to use belief to make things happen. And when you do that, you harness the unlimited power that you have inside. That's the unlimited energy of your subconscious. It makes you more competent in everything you do. It makes you more influential with other people. It makes your dreams start to come true. If you've not joined our Facebook community, you need to do that, because our Facebook family is our hub. It's our meeting spot. It's our family reunion 24/7. We are like-minded people. We are banded together as friends, helping, empowering each other, giving each other the tools to transform your life. It's all positivity. It's all proven. We'd love to have you. It's facebook.com/groups/students of self-empowerment. Facebook.com/groups/students of self-empowerment. Don't forget, if you're watching this as a replay, I'm reading your comments. I'm so glad you could be here. I appreciate it. Have a good time on your Zoom meeting. We are live. If you have a question or comment, you want to drop it in the comment section. We still have a few minutes. If not, I will look at them tomorrow. I'll cover it in another video. All right. If you've not joined our YouTube channel, you need to subscribe. We have 300 videos and 350 subscribers, and I can tell you that's not great. So if we hit 1,000, we can start monetizing. This group, it's not a money-making proposition. Everything we do here is to give you the tools you need right now to start changing your life. But if you want to help us, one way to do that is subscribing to our YouTube channel. One way of doing that is inviting your friends and your family, commenting, sharing our posts on our Facebook community. You don't have to purchase anything to help us. But one way you can do it, if you like the content, if you like what we create and cultivate for you here, is to get the word out. Because when that happens, our engagement grows, our subscriber count grows. Remember, where your attention goes, energy flows. What you look at in your life expands. And that's why so many people are looking at the wrong thing, or the negative things, the things they don't want. We need to be focusing instead on what we do want, on what we want to become. And then things start to change. It is like magic. It is like magic. Yeah, I agree. But you know, we're starting slow. We haven't done any advertising or anything. Just as we ramp everything up, we wanted to do it organically. So it's been fun because I'm still going around the world. I'm still performing. I'm still doing seminars and speaking, and we're slowly getting it moving, but we haven't done any advertising. When we do that, I think things will really ramp up quickly, because we're almost 7,000 members in our Facebook community, and in a year, and again with no advertising. So thanks for being here, and I appreciate you, and I would love to have that million for sure. So the rest of you, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We certainly could use it, and there is a lot of content there. Whatever problem you're going through, I can guarantee we've got a video on it. So if you're just joining us, in this video, I covered why we are domesticated, how we're domesticated like the family pet. I created this graphic today, and it's so freaky. It's just so spooky, but I love it because it's so true. If you want to support us and you want to do something monetarily, you can buy one of our ebooks, you can buy one of our courses, you can give my mindset coaching program to yourself, you can give it to a family member. Because this year, instead of giving mom perfume and dad an ugly tie, why not instead give the gift of transformation, the gift of self-empowerment, the gift of living a life by design and not default? Most people get up every morning and they just accept the life that unfolds in front of them. Why not instead take control of your life and get in the driver's seat of your life? That is what we do. That's what we're all about here. If you need, we all have mentors. I have a mentor. I know the most successful people in the world. Tony Robbins has a mentor. Bill Gates has a mentor. So the most successful people understand that's why they're successful, that they don't know everything, that there's some areas they're lacking in. I do something called a mindset reset, and it's a program that is unique to me because none of my programs are cookie cutter. If you apply to work with me, if it's something that we decide will work for both of us, I give you several questionnaires. We find out what your goals are, what your goals were, what people wanted for you, what you want for yourself. We take a look at everything as it is right now, and then we invest everything with new power and a new dynamic energy. And then the goalpost appears, not in some far off recess of your mind, but actually on your line of your future. Even though, remember, the future never really exists. The past doesn't exist. We like to live there, but the only moment that we ever have is now. When we're thinking about the past, it's now, and we're thinking about it. The past is just former nows, because anytime those moments happen to us, when they happened, it was then now. It was then now. That's confusing, but it's true. The future doesn't exist either, because when the future gets here, whatever moment you're waiting for, when it gets here, guess what it will be? It will be now. So the future doesn't really exist. The past doesn't exist either. It's this moment that you can take control of the reins of your life. So if you want a mindset reset, it's a program where we take your entire life, we deconstruct what it is that's important. We recreate the list of to-dos. Then I push you forward and we make it happen. We meet once a week, 45-minute recorded Zoom call. If you're interested, go to brentwebb.com. You can apply to work with me. We don't take everyone. It is an intensive process. It's a 6-month process. But if you want more information, go to brentwebb.com. So I'll be back tomorrow with a new video in the morning. We're also going to do tomorrow evening. I'm going to go a little farther into this idea about domestication in the book of law. We're going to get into that tomorrow. If you have any questions or comments, drop them into the comment section and I'll get to them. That's all I got for you today. Go out and enjoy your evening. Show yourself a little love. You deserve it. And remember, something good is going to happen to you. All you've got to do is believe it. Believe it and make it happen. So don't worry. Be happy and feel good. I'll see you tomorrow.